there's content that's borderline, that's content that we basically will not.
There is no second best. There is no second best crypto asset.
I respect you, and I have a great deal of appreciation to you, JF.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to JFGT tonight. Expect a relatively short show because my voice is still very weak. YouTube commenter says JF is 2 minutes late. There must be a serious emergency. Yeah, I had some meals to finish for the kids, and I'm very weak. So that explains the 2 minutes late start. Sadie Edwards says this is the reset they didn't get with COVID. Yes, I said it before that the end of a Trump presidency is always a massive crash because Trump in his nature is a delusion. It's a delusion that can be good for America, this whole salesman type of let's carry ourselves far into the future, this visionary aspect. This can be good. But it also has a cost. There's a wake-up call at some point, and COVID was one of the wake-up calls. The wake-up call that, okay, you inflate the economy and all, it can make the stock market look good for a while, but eventually the fact that America is parasitized by its bureaucratic class, and it's completely directionless, and it's being basically pillaged by corporate vultures. Eventually, they want to sell you a vaccine, and eventually they're ready to run a whole psyop on your society, even if you're the president. That was COVID. And the other layers of deception of American society in this presidency are showing their full symptom. I'm very happy of the Tucker Carlson Joe Kent interview. I don't know what these people are up to. I still don't trust them, just like I said in the show yesterday. But I'm happy that there is finally a full addressing of this issue, of the issue of Israeli lies. And the military tactic aspect of it is just a small fraction of it. But the ensemble of the ways in which Israeli society interfaces with American society. It's dishonest, it's filled with lies, and the interview couldn't have been more clear than this. Very clearly, we are being told that what I've been saying for 10 years is true. It's not only true for what I can observe in the domain of media, but the greed that you see in the domain of media and in public interventions, the greed of a Mark Levin, it expresses itself into millions of little bureaucratic interactions between the FBI, the Mossad, and they pressure, and they lie, and they say they have weapons of mass destruction when they don't, and they say they have nuclear weapons when they don't. This is happening, and finally we have a mainstream conversation about it. That is absolutely to be celebrated. Not that it's new to me, not that it's new to you, but we're just a few thousand people. We're just, whatever is the audience of JF, it's a small nucleus that we are. But finally it's happening at a multi-million level audience, that we're addressing this problem frontally. And Joe Kent was very clear in this interview. We must address the next step to resolve anything in this war is to put Israel under control. Now, I'm afraid that they don't mean it all that hard. That's my problem. And this is where the echo of Nick Fuentes' research on all this and the fact that, yeah, these people are an organized network of people who want to take over the Republican Party. The Tucker, Joe Kent, Tulsi Gabbard, they are dissatisfied with some aspect of war, but they all deeply come from CIA-style or military-style operations. And they're all made a living for their whole life in this system. The extent to which I trust these people to fix it, even if I was to have a dream ticket, let's say I have J.D. Vance, Tucker Carlson, Vice President, Joe Kent on the Department of Defense, I don't know that I would get a victory. But yes, Ked's dead. It's a victory for truth. At least we're there. At least we're there. That's what makes me cheer this interview. I don't know that they are a solution because I don't know that they have a full measure of the extent of the problem. When I hear Joe Kent comment so passionately about intelligence, about war, I think he misses the fact that the entirety of American society has been taken over by this force. What he sees of it, what I see of it, is small portions. It's the tip of the iceberg. And we're dealing with the problem that we have a bloodthirsty, absolutely self-interested group that has too many levers of control over the whole of American society, through AIPAC, through direct Israeli interactions with Trump, through penetration of agencies of intelligence and all these services. And I think that even the Joe Kent lesson to learn from this, which is basically the takeaway, is we have to be more careful where we interpret Israeli intelligence. It's like, it's actually worse than this. We should completely understand it as enemy communication. That is the point at which I would feel comfortable. The point at which we interpret anything coming from Israeli agents as communications from Iran. Same podium. But we're not there. And even with Joe Kent, even with Tucker Carlson, we're unfortunately not there. We're not at the point of understanding there is a level of enmity and a level of carelessness about destruction that we cannot even allow to just slightly tint our nation. We cannot even allow an iota of it. And there's a reason why other societies have been rejecting Israeli intelligence and Israeli influence. You can see that Europe is, even if they are dominated and they are submitted to interest, you can see that certainly this particular war, they haven't been brought in and they're out of it. Sadie Edwards says, failure to take JF's advice after proving countless times he's right. It might sound crazy. It's not what you want to hear, but he's always right. JF was getting the OGs into Bitcoin at 6,000. Thank you. I do think that, yes, I've been almost non-humanly right in my life. I do believe when I look at my history and everything I called out, and when I look at how the world reached me, instead of me having to adjust my position, it's like we're living in a JF stream 10 years later, but now it's a Tucker stream. And yes, I do agree that I am particularly good at what I do. I do agree that I have a proper, truthful vision of society. So true that society didn't want to hear it in time. Now that's true. Like people don't fully appreciate the level of the different levels of truth. There's the truth everyone can agree on at a point. There's the truth that's just astonishing in its novelty. Then there's the truth you almost get killed for. Now those truths, they're rare. and I'm good at it. Thinky clearly says, hey, JF, is the reason that women's voices sound annoying to men because the men who didn't listen to them survived and passed on their genes? Absolutely. You know, I always accept a valid theory of natural selection. That is an absolutely viable hypothesis. In a way, you have to be right. You have to be right. So if you find it annoying, it has to be that this emotion of finding it annoying was an advantage. And yes, I do believe we are absolutely discounting. One of the aspects of the takeover of modernity, of Western civilization in modernity, is this feminization of everything. And I believe that there has been a complete dismissal of the other side of the middle of culture, from Richard Dawkins really to now, to the regular SJW of today. So Richard Dawkins, you know, highlights memes, and there is a whole part of the academia that is concentrating on cultural transmission. And I would love, and in fact, I had an idea of writing a book about this called Not Knowledge. Not culture, not cultural transmission. And what I mean by this is we probably underestimate the value at which the ability to discard the environment can be very, very good. The ability to say, no, because there's this whole blank slate idea that has penetrated, of course, bad psychological departments in the universities. But beyond this, it has its subtle remnants in pretty much every liberal academic's approach. This idea, oh yeah, culture. We're ingesting culture, and culture grows, and we're building on culture. We're sculpting culture. We're creating this outside object, memes. We are establishing outside objects, and culture is an accumulative process. All of these declinations of the view of culture, I think, are hiding the most important aspect of culture, which is that culture is other people controlling you. And the original Richard Dawkins, the young Richard Dawkins, would understand this. He would understand through the extended phenotype, through signaling, wars, that most of culture must be stupid. Most of culture must be an exploitative signal. It has to go that way. Because you cannot have a device of power over so many other humans without having an evolutionary pressure that will lead you to misuse it against the interest of these humans for your own interest. And so what I think is a very important conception of culture that is not touched on at all by the academia is the gene of resistance to culture. The idea that culture can never be cumulative and creative over long periods, that it is always doomed to be parasitic, that it is always doomed to be ignored eventually. And that is the key to the falling of civilizations, by the way. Civilizations have to fall because they can only rise on open minds that are capable of building for a temporary amount of time, building a cumulative culture. But at the end of it, any open brains, any blank slate, any bit of your brain that is open to be influenced by anyone else outside of yourself is going to be exploited. It's going to be taken advantage of. And there's going to be people specializing in just doing this until they rape your entire country and you don't exist anymore. That's the truth of biology. The truth of biology is that culture is an accident and it's quickly patched by life. It's not a rule of advancement of civilizations. Every planet out there with a civilization is headed to absolute crap. I'm kind of drifting on a separate subject, but it's like, yeah, I do take these things seriously. What else did I want to answer? Super Chat Truvi says, watching the streams, learning some truths. Thank you very much. Absolutely. So this interview was truly laying out very important problems with the interface between the Israelis and American society. And it touches upon what we just talked about, the failure of non-autism, the failure of being in a social system where you are willing to be influenced, where you have allies, friends. All of this is dangerous for the search for truth, which is why anyone who's close to some genius or some just very high intelligence person, this is why these people are not social. Because it's like the search for the truth is completely incompatible with the social world. And the entire American bureaucracy is stuck with a problem of non-autism, which, by the way, is also a problem of not enough males, because ultimately males are the only autists. Males are the only ones capable of truly resisting social pressure. So we have these weak agents, these feminized men, we have these women in power. They are in a bureaucracy that is feeding, and it is getting influenced by the Israelis, and it wants to be influenced because it's funded by AIPAC and other corrupted networks. All of this system feeds false information to the president. And it's like, this is almost a non-agentic way of phrasing it, because in my heart, I believe that Trump knows what he's doing. I don't think Trump is being deceived. I think at some point you are responsible for the deceptions that you order onto yourself. At some point, you have a responsibility to say, isn't it fascinating that my white Christian bureaucrats are all telling me that Iran isn't developing a nuclear bomb, and my Jewish counselors and Jared Kushner and friends of Bibi Netanyahu are all telling me that Iran is developing a bomb? At some point, you have to light up. And so I'm not in the game of saying, you know what, Trump is being deceived. I think that's an aspect of Joken that I would be highly critical of. This excuse he's making for Donald Trump. If a guy in Canada who's a streamer, a biologist, who's not particularly privy to anything politics, I'm just interpreting the facts from the public space. If I can see it 10 years ago, certainly Donald Trump can see it. And certainly he can count. And he can count, well, here's one white Christian bureaucrat that believes there is no Iran bomb. Here's one Jewish Mossad agent that believes there is an Iran bomb. Those things are important to understand what kind of biases in the information processing, what kind of biases am I exposing myself to? And Trump knows this. He knows what he's doing. So it's like, no, let's not make excuses. And even Tucker, to an extent, was actually finding Joe Kent a little weak. And he was like, well, those are very generous interpretations. Okay, I guess it's an angle you can take. So this is why I'm not super convinced that we have here a new elite rising for the Republican Party that will drive proper goals for the future of the GOP. I think we have people who are still in a deceptive mode. The very same deception that turned them into puppets of these wars for the last 30 years. It's not like you're not going to solve a problem with the very people who participated to it so enthusiastically, who made their literal living out of it. Now, and again, I'm oscillating between good commentary and bad and critical, but it's what this interview is. There is much to be celebrated. There is much to be criticized. The end of the interview is absolutely fascinating because it's a political major event that happens in this interview with Joe Kent. At the end of it, we have the first public statement by a public American official involved in intelligence gathering saying, hey, Candace Owens is right. It's not that he said that, but he said, yes, there were leads. There were leads that deserve to be studied in terms of foreign nexus that could have been influencing or been aware in advance of the killing of Charlie Kirk. That is extremely important. Not only this, Joe Kent confirms we were blocked all the way. We were told not to intervene. We were kept from intervening. Eventually, we tried intervening while being told not to, and we were denied access to information. So there's this whole local police management and FBI dynamic that led these people to decide there will not be ever an investigation of potential foreign links to any of the recent assassination attempts. Trump, twice, well, even more than twice, but twice, two very important events. One with clear ties to the Ukrainian type mafia stuff. So already, it's like the guy who tried to kill Trump was part of the Ukrainian psyops in Ukraine for pushing the frontline propaganda of the pro-Ukraine war people from the West. Somehow this guy ends up also being crazy and wanting to kill Trump. There's a foreign nexus right there. It's like while Joe Kent is like, there were leads that perhaps would have been maybe worth investigating just to make sure that they were not true. It's like, no, the foreign trace over all of this is already confirmed in some of these cases. In others, it's just highly, highly possible. So, yeah, again, I don't know what to fully think about it, but at least we have a credible voice from inside the bureaucracy that tells us there is an active. I think at this point, with just based on Joe Kent's statement, we can say there is an active desire not to investigate what truly happened in the case of the shooting of Trump that failed, but was very close to succeed, and in the case of the assassination of Charlie Kirk. There is not a serious desire, and in fact, there are explicit obstructions being put that Joe Kent describes as coming from the FBI. Now, that tells me there are agents in the FBI who have interest in the truth not coming out. And it's probably at the very top of it. Most likely. I don't think those kinds of obstructions come from base, lower level FBI agents. I think if an entire agency of the US government keeps the Center for Intelligence Against Counterterrorism from doing what they do, which is study counterterrorism and try to find links. If an entire government agency blocks them from accessing information, that to me is a big, big red flag. And it tells me that people at the top of the FBI are not trustable. What Joe Kent also describes is the phenomenon of wrapping around Trump. So when Israeli interests saw that they had succeeded at putting Trump in power, they started organizing a whole shell of isolation around him. And this goes back to even Jared Kushner. The very idea that they basically had these marriages within Trump's family to basically buffer around Trump slowly. And it goes back very far, but that's the long game that Israeli agents are willing to play. So they have accumulated counselors, and Jared Kushner is one of those that's very important, apparently, in the decision. Trump said, Jared told me they weren't negotiating. It's like, yeah, well, can you do some math here, Trump? Can you do some math, please? So what Joe Kent describes is that basically the people like Joe Kent, who I would assume is some kind of Christian, the Christian bureaucrat of the Trump administration could not even communicate their information to Trump because they had organized a system of gatekeeping. Now, gatekeeping is a signature Mossad action. They love gatekeeping. They love it. When you see gatekeeping somewhere, a Mossad agent is not so far. They do it at so many levels. They do it at the geopolitical level, where just think about the positioning of Israel. It's positioned at the center of the intersections of various civilizations. It's at the intersection of various waterways. Think about the northern extensions of Israel. It's onto waterways that are important for commerce, energy. Think about the obsession around the Strait of Hormuz. It's because it's one of the outputs of this region in energy. Now think about YouTube and censorship. When you think about for example, the alliance between the ADL and YouTube back in my days, where they said, we're going to be gatekeeping what you hear, what you think. Gatekeeping, again. Gatekeeping of information. We're going to control the information you get. So now we get Mossad agents telling the American bureaucrats, oh yeah, they're developing a bomb right now. And not only this, you get Mark Levin on Twitter and on his own radio shows pushing the exact same lie at the exact same time. So now you've created a gatekeeping bubble of information for the whole American public. This is very well described by Joe Kent, and it's important that we talk about this. Why so much gatekeeping? It is, we know why it is. It's because the projects are nefarious, deceptive, and meant for self-enrichment, greed, and extension, and the destruction of other human lives. That is why, in a nutshell. Why would another society invest so much in gatekeeping information and gatekeeping basically everything? Because the real goal is so dirty that if you knew about it, or if the general public knew about it, and if they knew the truth, and if they weren't told lies like the weapons of mass destruction, they would definitely not side with this crap, with this arbitrary destruction of other human lives. So yeah, excellent appearance. We have, what's the situation with the Iran war? Well, we have Iran doing minor damage on the entire area. We don't get to see much. It's very hard to get reliable videos, but we see a couple of strikes. Disrupting airport functions. We've seen a plane burning. We've seen some of the oil infrastructure of other countries than Israel, Qatar, UAE being targeted.
Iran has been launching drones and missiles at US air defense radar systems across the Middle East, trying to blind its ability to detect attacks. Oh my God.
So there is some degree of success in Iran's destabilization of the area. There is some degree of control over the Strait of Hormuz, and that the only boats that are reported to be passing are those boats paying in Chinese yuan. And that is the current situation. And we start feeling a desperation. We start feeling a desperation from Trump and from J.D. Vance to be justifying this war and trying to get out of it. Because right now we have Trump very regularly promising an end to the war, but at the same time we have the Iranian side saying we're not even interested in discussing anymore. And I don't blame it on them. It's like America has this way of moving on. It's like, oh yeah, we're going to destroy your entire society. We're going to chop your entire leadership. And then they expect to be negotiating on peace 1 week later with the son of the guy you just killed. And Iran is a slower society. It's a less advanced society. It's not, in Iran, they're not addicted on scrolling on Twitter all day. They don't live in the information bubble of modern America. And so they're like much more slow, and they're like, well, we haven't even begun to take our revenge. We're not going to start talking peace. And I believe it's the right thing in a way to do for them. It's the right strategic move. The one that you see in Russia, basically, because when the Americans and the Israelis are asking for ceasefire, first, they don't even respect it. Second, they ask for these ceasefires right after striking you. So it's like, well, if I do a ceasefire now, so that means the ceasefire is really only about cutting my opportunity for revenge. That is what it is. And on top of it, they don't even respect it. So it's like, it's not worth anything. And as the Iranian leader was saying, what we want is not a ceasefire. We want an end to the war. And we want guarantees that this won't happen again. And it looks very amateur, the whole thing, from the Trump perspective. It looks very amateur what was done. First, we have the bureaucrats of America confirming that this was all set up by fake intel and biased pushing of the president, wrapping of his information bubble, and everyone was spamming him with just Iran, 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 dangerous. Secondly, there's not even an outcome stated. So what's the outcome here? What are we hoping? There's nothing to gain. There is no evidence, and in fact, it goes against the evidence, the idea that this will change the regime towards some more collaborative regime. No evidence of this. We've galvanized the Iranian nationalist population to be proud in their country and to be even demanding revenge because they've seen some of their environments being destroyed. So they've experienced the fear of the bombs. They've seen some of their loved ones die, and they've seen their oil infrastructure being blown up. And now we have the latest pathetic move of Trump, which is fascinating. I've never seen this. Trump, well, let me read his truth post about it. Trump is claiming that he was not aware that Israel was going to strike the oil reserves of Iran. Remember that video that came out, which was one of the rare videos that was true in this whole war? It was a big oil petroleum industry just on fire. The whole city was in dark with black clouds and massive fire. So I've been very critical of this when we saw that video. This was evidence to me that there was extreme irresponsibility and recklessness in the actions of the US and Israel. And now we have Trump trying to distantiate himself from it, which is amazing to me because, hey, you also bombed a schoolgirl school. And you haven't even apologized for this yet. But now we are starting to get the propaganda from the American regime that, oh, well, it's Israel and they did it out of anger. I mean, unbelievable, the femininity of this. I think I should show it on screen because it's actually quite telling. This is female cognition right here. So Trump is trying to justify to the American people, oh, well, we didn't know that Israel was going to bomb Iran's oil reserves. First, I don't believe this. Secondly, even if you didn't know, you should have had an estimation. You should have had a probability in your head to say, look, these people have been so aggressively lobbying me. They seem absolutely shameless in their undertaking. And they have demonstrated this shamelessness again and again in executing the genocide of Gaza. And therefore, if I do something in Iran, whatever it is, they will probably use the opportunity to do something more. They will probably push their luck once more. Probabilistically, the chances of this happening, if you had asked me, is like 99.9%. It's like, yeah, they will shamelessly use... They will not be content with what you give them. Because they've never been content. We've been through this. It's not even last year, 3 years ago. We've been through this for 30 years. Never contempt. Never satisfied. Please kill Assad. Please kill Gaddafi. Please kill the Iraq guy. I mean, there's so many of them. I forget them. None of these killings have been satisfying the Israelis. Nor is this pretext of Trump a year or two ago when he bombed the nuclear sites. That didn't satisfy them too. So it's like, where do you get the idea that they would be satisfied if you killed Kalimani? But now Donald Trump is trying to get out of the sewers that he's put himself in. Israel, out of anger for what has taken place in the Middle East, has violently lashed out at a major facility known as South Pars gas field in Iran. Key word here. This is why I said this is feminine cognition justification. So you are telling me that that the Israelis, they have anger. They couldn't control their anger. And so they knew that a Trump strike was about to happen that will kill Khamenei. And then they felt the rage and, oh, we are angry. I can't control myself. I think I'm going to I'm too angry. I'm controlling this jet toward a precise bombing of an oil infrastructure of a specific country. How does anger drive a bombing of a specific military target that is oil? How does that work? How do you not control yourself? We're not into the domain of reality here. We're in the domain of emotional justification, which is everything that a woman do all day, 24/7. If you want this, get a girlfriend. Out of anger. So now we're supposed to excuse the behavior of Israel in the Middle East due to anger. Anger for what? They have been belligerent, genocidal forces in the Middle East for the last 30 years, depriving the entirety of their neighbors of sovereignty by killing if necessary. What are they angry at now? The United States knew nothing about this particular attack. It's like, so really, this confirms what Joe Kent is saying. We have a huge problem of Israeli behavior not being studied properly by our intelligence community. Like, wow, they planned this whole attack and you didn't know. Wow, that would be very problematic. You should know whether your illegal strikes of another sovereign nation and your blatant assassination of someone because you don't like that you haven't won a negotiation against them. You should know that this will be used by shameless people to put a little more peanut butter on the toast, to put just one more layer. Everything you do will be reused and will be complemented by something. Because Israel is always looking for opportunism. And they don't miss one. You give them a little bit, they will try to get a little more. That's how they work. Unfortunately, Iran did not know this or any of the pertinent facts pertaining to the South Pars attack and unjustifiably and unfairly attacked a portion of Qatar's LNG gas facility. See, such a naive geopolitical understanding. Oh, there was a misunderstanding. They shouldn't be hitting Qatar because what they don't understand is it wasn't America that blown up their oil reserve. If I'm Iranian, I don't give a shit about this. If I'm Iranian, I say you hold the responsibility for the friends you make. And this whole thing that you've built around my country, this oil draining facility of the US that you've installed around my country by constantly waging war, by trying to change my regimes repeatedly, and by depriving the very people, my very neighbors, of their ability to do commerce with me, I will consider the whole thing a single entity. Israel, Egypt, UAE, Qatar. If I think like an Iranian, this is all the same to me. And the Trump attack, it doesn't matter whether it wasn't an American that pushed the button on blowing up the oil facilities. This was all done together by a system of vipers coordinating with one another. Bez Chad says, military doesn't act like that. There's all types of protocols, chain of command, planning that go into attacks like that. You don't just do it out of anger. If you do, you can't be trusted ever. No, exactly. You're not going to drive a jet out of anger. It doesn't even make sense. Anger is a personal emotion. You don't get a whole military chain of command that is just fueled by anger. It's like there's a problem if there's so many angry people in your society that you can't even have a rational action of your military. Then you're just really a bunch of warmonger, dangerous people. No more attacks will be made by Israel pertaining to this extremely important and valuable South Pars field. Well, if I'm the Iranians, I laugh at this. First, because the guarantees of the US and Israel are worth nothing. Secondly, because, wow, your guarantee is so small. You're telling me that there will be no further attack of this particular oil field by Israel. You're not even borrowing the idea that you wouldn't attack other oil fields or that Israel wouldn't attack other oil fields pertaining to this extremely important. It's like so passive aggressive. Again, we are in the feminine domain of emotion processing. So Israel was acting out of anger. Now I told them, don't be angry anymore. If you have anger, redirect it toward a more productive hand, like striking other targets in Iran. Okay? Take your anger ball. Squish your anger ball. Get your inside behavior. Son, it's like fucking painful parenting. Trump is saying, I have told Israel to redirect its anger. We will no more direct our anger at all. We will blow up other things instead, like girls' schools. And if I'm an Iranian receiving this, I'm supposed to be like, oh yeah, let's negotiate with this guy. No, it's like, if I receive this, this is the attitude of the other side. My reaction is, okay, we need to set up to mess up the Strait of Hormuz for as long as we can do it. Because this is not intelligent. Like, Iranian is not a society that has been dominated by women yet. It's a patriarchal society. You're not going to win them with these feminine arguments of anger redirection. This is like making a case for a female social worker. Maybe she would be convinced by this. In which instance, the United States of America, they unwisely decided to attack a very innocent, in this case, Qatar. Bullshit. This entire region has been populated by proxy forces that are subservient to American interests in one way or another. Kuwait, Iraq, South Iraq, Israel, Egypt, UAE, all of this has been submitted to the advancement of the American-Israeli Judeo Empire in the Middle East. And they all serve their parts. And they all bizarrely stayed silent as their very Muslim brothers were being genocided in Gaza. Fascinating. Oh yeah, they tried sending letters to Trump and saying, please, that was one, I think it's Trump who reported this himself, that one of the UAE leaders was just asking him, please do something to save the Palestinians. Please do your best to alleviate their suffering. So that's the best you can do when you see your own brothers dying. I mean, it's not like I had any expectation for Muslim solidarity, but it's like, that's weird. It's very weird how this was let to be done. John Drake says the US could hardly open the strait in 1988. It's basically impossible now. We have put ourselves in such a pathetic situation. Even the war goals that are being mentioned as potential future intervention, like getting the island, are so stupid. You're going to isolate yourself on an easily targetable island at the feet of the Iranian mountain. Like, the Iranians aren't particularly precise in their strikes, especially when they throw as far as Israel. But you're not going to hold that island with, like, the Iranians. This would be a shooting this would be like shooting fish at the bottom of a barrel. It would be a shooting exercise. You think you're going to take control of the little oil transfer islands? You're not. So even those plans for future interventions, they don't make sense. The whole thing doesn't make sense to have put yourself at the entrance of a castle that you know you can't penetrate. And if Iran continues attacking Qatar, the United States, with or without the help or consent of Israel, will massively... So this is how pathetic this all is. At this point, Trump must specify what of his actions are those commanded by Israel and what of his actions are sovereign American actions. And he's saying here, by the way, if Iran strikes Qatar again, I'm gonna bomb Iran from American sovereign position, even without Israel asking for it. Wow, you're a strong boy. Strong boy, Trump. First sovereign action of the American government for 30 years. Good job. Like, literally, when you have to specify, and by the way, this time, if I do it, I'm not even going to do it because Israel asked it. I'm going to do it because I want to do it. Wow. The strongest sovereign nation in the entire world has to specify when its special actions are its own. Will massively blow up the entirety of the South Pars gas fields. Well, earlier you were saying I am absolutely guaranteeing the security of these fields, but I will blow them up if you happen to shoot toward Qatar. I do not want to authorize this level of violence and destruction because of the long-term implications that it will have on the future of Iran. But if Qatar's LNG is again attacked, I will not hesitate to do so. Well, you know, whatever happens, I think that the Iranians have been actually constantly reasonable with these things, and they probably will not hit Qatar again. But they will enact their revenge in various ways, and by disrupting the area, they will continue doing this as long as they feel like it, really. That's the current circumstance of the war. Now, very, very typically, generally, Iran is typically withdrawing from revenge campaigns within a week. Maybe because it's a bigger event this time, maybe it will take a month. But I don't expect a super long continued escalation at this point. There's no sign that this will happen. Trump is showing signs of pathetic kind of kneelings and attempts at getting the situation under control. J.D. Vance is out there interacting with the public and saying, well, you know, it's important we stand by the president. And that's how, this is always the justification they do, by the way. Which doesn't work in this case, JD, because you were rooting for these strikes. So you caused this as much as the president did. It's not like you can say, oh, well, I'm merely doing my duty here, standing behind stupid actions that I do have to stand because we're American. No. You are as much part of these requests for strikes, this bubble of information around Trump. You're part of it because we got you on the media. So that's one of the first things you said. We need to strike Iran hard. Vote Pekchik says, hello JF. Every year seems to be more black-pilled than the previous one. Longtime fan since Drunken Peasant's appearance. Well, nice to see old fans. Welcome again. And please, guys, if you'd like to support the show needs your support to keep going. So go subscribe to Patreon, Subscribe Star, and give some of your monthly support to keep the show alive. That is all I had to say for today. I thought it would be a short show, but I got carried away. and my voice made it through. So much love. I'm going to go rest because even if my voice survived tonight, I am still very tired by the cold. Much love, and I'll see you all tomorrow.